We're all the way here. Hmm. Hmm. Being called forward. That's why it's so easy for this conversation to happen. Because there's the interest. Because you have the experiences and you reflect on the experience and you have new ideas, and that new idea causes a combustion of energy. And that's what we're here to work with, that combustion of energy, because there's always a new idea. There's always a next step. It's just whether or not you've allowed yourself to recognize it, to dwell with it, to feel the presence of that energy, and to let it call you forward to whatever is coming next for you.
So when we talk about, the presence of the energy, so there's the energy present, and then there's us. And I know that we're not separate from the energy, but it's almost as though we have to open up to the energy.
Yes.
Right? And, that opening up process happens in so many different ways, so many opportunities every day to open up. And I've been thinking about, like really open up, like open up, open up, open up. And today we had this family meeting, my 3 adult children and my husband and I, to talk about my husband's condition, which we're still trying to figure out, but has something to do with some kind of dementia. But the most beautiful thing happened when we kind of all opened up to being loving and supportive, and talk about it, and have and talk about our feelings, and talk about what we think that we can offer, and how we can contribute together as a family to supporting him. Um, and it was just this sort of beautiful experience that, Joseph, you talk about, maybe what we really wanted in this situation, it wasn't about the disease so much as about the coming together, about the feeling of love, about the feeling of, respect for one another, and the opportunity that it's giving us to share. Um, so that was, I feel like that was an opening. That was an opening up. That was a pure communication, a pure like intention of my soul, the divine me, in this human experience. Would you agree with that?
Yes. And it lets the new idea flow in for all of you. It is happening here with this conversation as well. As you open up, the new idea flows in, and everyone has access to that idea. Not everyone is going to articulate it in the same way. Not everyone is going to express or experience it in the same way, but the energy is the constant. And so when you all gather, or anytime you gather, with the intention of having that clear flow, whether it's just you and one other, that shared intention then draws that idea, draws the energy to you, and you each find your own harmony in its expression, in its experience. The commonality, of course, is the energy. And the longer you stay there, individually, collectively, the stronger it gets, the more it is able to anchor within all of you. And the more that your combined attention is able to enhance it. That's why you see things like mass healings or miracles, or even people being on the same wavelength watching a sporting event. It's all that same energetic experience, and you're all in sync with it being called forward. And that's where the influence comes in as well. Because as that momentum continues and continues and continues to build, it becomes more compelling. It becomes more interesting. It becomes more detailed, and it becomes more powerful. Now, you individually have the option as to whether or not to participate always, but the influence is there. And as you continue to just say yes to it and allow it and allow it, you know you're all in synergy because one person is speaking and then another person is speaking and then another person is speaking and you're all on the same wavelength. But we mean that in the literal sense, in the actual sense that you're all tuned into that energy and expressing your own unique portrayal. And you all have your own characteristics, you all have your own interests, you all have your own unique desires within all of it. So you all have that contribution that you're adding with one another as well.
Mm. Yeah, that was a beautiful description. And there was exactly that feeling that we were all contributing, what we could, what was coming up for us, and that it, as the mother, these children, and my spouse, the wife of my husband, it felt like this beautiful moment of that we had created together. Um, and I just felt so proud and so like amazed at the same time. It's just this really wonderful feeling. And from what you're saying is that as we continue to kind of move in that energy, we'll continue to influence one another in a way that will create more, that perhaps that energy may shift and change and grow, but it'll be present for us to sort of, kind of evolve with, or
Yes.
yeah.
And in
It's
those moments of your feeling that pride or that enjoyment, that appreciation,
mhm,
really feeling it, that's exactly what you're doing in that moment is you're contributing to it, you're enhancing it. And so then you can have the new ideas come because you feel it growing and getting stronger and building, and there is a crest of energy. And at that crest, that's where you're then able to move into these new experiences, into the new ideas. Or you're all able to say that was a wonderful talk, and then you move on with the day. But be
mm,
aware of that rising energy as it continues to build, because that's where the creativity is going. And
mm,
this pertains to all groups, all conversations. If you're feeling any sort of tension, to just let it go and to refocus, not on the words that another is offering as much. Or if you lose track, it's not about the words, but it's about the experience, and you'll tune right back into what's going on behind the scenes.
mm. Yeah, yeah. It was very, very loving. There was a deep, deep sense of love flowing in the experience, and I can still feel it. So yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to bring that up. So appreciate your perspective on that.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I would like to add something, Marilyn. As you were talking, I can also feel the energy coming from you. I'm sitting here, and I'm like, wow, I can just, I can feel how maybe it was flowing, and everyone was like in sync. That kind of a, that's how I'm feeling that you were. So I want to
Oh,
just,
good.
I just want to put that on there for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
And in your recognition of her feeling and your recognition of her energy, you're in on it as well.
Mm,
Because you couldn't feel that energy unless it was resonating with you.
true. Yes.
Mm, mm,
And so that's how you pass on the flame. That's how you hand off the baton. That's how you keep that energy moving and spreading and sharing with others.
mm,
You become a
Awesome.
beacon yourself, and then you pass it on. And others, when they see you in that place of connection, the energy is so compelling that
mm,
that's what they're
Mm,
focused on.
mm,
The words and all of that comes naturally. That comes second nature. That comes on the heels of that, all figures itself out. Whether it's music that you're writing, whether it's words that you're speaking, all of that comes and it comes and it comes and it comes perfectly in the perfect time for
mm,
whoever you're interacting with. But when you're making the foundation consistently, that connection with the inner energy, that's
mm,
what brings the next steps to you,
mm.
that recognition.
Oh,
mm. Yeah. I found myself, we had been kind of talking about this idea of having a big celebration at the end of May for our 40th wedding anniversary, just as an opportunity to celebrate our relationship. We don't know what's going to happen with David, and don't even know what's going to happen with all of us, right, from day to day. But in a way, it feels like it would be so nice to celebrate, our life together for the sake of a celebration, like because
Indeed.
it's a joyful thing. And the kids were all like, yeah, I'll get the music. Yeah, I'll get everybody to make a video. Yeah, I'll get the food. It was like, and we can ask the neighbors if we could use their front yard. It was like everybody was just like kind of, in sync and talking about it. Like you said, it was just nice to feel that, that feedback, to get that feedback about this idea that they were in on as well now. And I think I understand, like it's going to continue, it's going to continue
Yes.
to bubble out from us.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're pre-programming that experience.
Yeah.
You're creating that end result. Not that it
Yeah.
is an end, but
Right.
you're creating that experience through those types of conversations. So, of course, you could be contemplating it from the, oh, why haven't we done this before? I'm not sure if it will be good enough. And what if what if the weather's not cooperative and all those things? You could go from that, and that's exactly what you'll be projecting forward. Or you could do as you're doing there, where you're all building into it, adding more focus, adding new ideas, adding more intention. So if there is the occasional blip of resistance, it pales in comparison to the momentum that you've already built.
Mm, mm, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. You kind of the blip, it doesn't have as much impact, doesn't have like a big draw, a big
Doesn't it?
attraction. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's very cool. It's because this opening up, this idea of opening up to the energy, like it's almost the sense of it's me, and it's like it's me and it's not me, or it is all me in a way, but at the same time, it's fun to feel like I'm interacting with, with this creative energy that is perhaps just, a little bit bigger than me or something. I don't know how to describe it.
We call it a collective consciousness.
Oh. Ah. I never looked at it that way. And that is awesome.
It is.
That is awesome.
Because you get the best of it
Yeah.
translated through your personality.
Yeah.
And the same is true for everyone else involved. You get the best of it.
Mm-hmm. That's fun. That's cool. Thanks for doing the back and forth on that. That's really awesome. The opening up, it's like there's so much more. It's almost like you get to one level and then there's another level, and then you get to
There
one
is.
level and another level. And then another.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
there is no end to that, because you're always creating more. You're always creating the new idea. So it builds and it builds and it builds. And then there is that combustion of energy, which carries you now to more refined states of being. And then
Mhm.
you'll be there and you'll be having the conversations, and everyone will be, and you can do this, of course, physically by yourself, but it is very enjoyable to share it with others, where you're all playing into that, you're all bouncing off of each other, and this heightened state of being is refined, and all of a sudden, and you feel that crest that we've been speaking of come, where there is that combustion of energy, and then there's the new and the new and the next and the next.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, it's awesome. Almost everything day to day, like, in my experience, I can have that kind of relationship with. I
Yes.
can have that, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
But you cannot dictate whether or not others participate with that process. As we
Yeah.
spoke, you have the influence, but it's always up to the individual as to whether or not they participate. They can walk out of the room, they can yell and shout and fight against it. But if your focus is on that consistent connection to the energy, that's what is going to dominate within your experience. And that's what you'll draw to yourself. Now, if you become distracted and start focusing on what we call a blip, but then it becomes more than a blip, it becomes a problem, and it becomes more than a problem, it becomes a pattern or something like that. And you make that your focus and you feel that. In other words, you can feel when that's happening. And we know you vividly want to respond to the conversations, to what someone is saying to you, to what you're even tempted to say to them. But you have to release that attachment to that reality and focus back on that connection with the inner energy.
Yeah.
If they join, they join. And that is their process, and they're carried along with that momentum. If they reject it or say no to it, they bounce off, they bounce away.
Yeah.
Or you do.
Or I do. I don't know, Anson, did you have something that you wanted to ask?
Not really asked, but you're talking about energy and stuff. I want to add to my own experience. I was having, well, I got the shot, the second shot, matter of fact, last week, and I started to feel a little achy, and I just told myself, Anson, stop creating the achiness, like create something else. And I just lay there and I started to just create all kind of things, and it literally went away. I'm like,
Yes.
well, this is crazy. It literally went away, and I started to get a headache, and I'm like, nope, I'm not accepting no headache. I wanted to just go away, and I started to like think of a freer head, not a head that has headache, and eventually it started to go away, and now like
Yes.
it kind of hit me like, wow, Anson, you're doing this. No one
Oh,
else. You're doing that, and that kind of that just changed everything. So I had no fever, nothing to talk about, and within the next day I was fine. No,
That's
no,
the
no complaint.
process. Yes. It comes up. You can engage it. You can fight with it. You can complain about it, or you can just let it go.
Hmm.
And as soon as you let it go, it dissipates. And that's
Mm.
exactly what you're feeling. But if you start saying things, if you're mad at yourself for something
Yeah.
happening, in other words, you can say, I'm the creator and I shouldn't be creating this. And why am I not creating this? And it should be better. That's when you need to catch yourself with that as well. And it's just as easy for you to do this as it is for you to apply it to anything, to
Yeah.
everything, when you catch it in the early stages, before you're so caught up in it that it is so real that it's just real. But it
Mm.
doesn't have to be.
Mm. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. I
Yeah.
have to go ahead, Anson.
No, no. I'm just want to say I wish I can. Well, I know I can do it, but I'm just saying I wish I could be like that every time, like every day, every situation.
Place the
Because
intention.
like stay, yeah, like stay in that moment. Like for when every problem comes up, any situation comes up,
But you're
then
already
you get,
projecting it into the future a little bit.
yeah.
And that takes you away from the ability to release or shift that energy, because it's not about what
Mm,
you're doing tomorrow. It's about right here, right now, and then right here, right now, and then right here, right now, over and over. And so the more you become focused into this moment, then when the distraction away from that connection comes up, you recognize it right away because
mm,
it's so subtle, but it's subtly different from this state of being. But in those moments that you're saying what you're saying to us and thinking about the future or thinking about the past,
mm,
we want you to know you're doing it in that moment. You're That's the subtlety, because it didn't feel so good to think about that past, or it didn't feel so good to think about not being able to achieve it in the future.
mm.
And we say, how did that thought feel?
Right here, right now.
Right here, right now. thinking about, in other words, if you're saying anything like, I'm not always able to do this, and I wish I could do it more in the future, and I'm not sure if I'm able to maintain this energy. Well, you, in your image, you may think you're thinking of the future, but right here, right now, you're saying all of the things that are maybe not working quite as well. And it doesn't seem so bad. It doesn't seem so bad. In other words, who cares about that? I'm just sort of talking it out. But pay attention to that feeling. And it's a subtle refinement, but it's right now, then it's now again, and then it's now again. And if you start in that early sense to doubt yourself at all, don't give that airtime as true as it may have been, because in your giving it airtime, you're now making it more difficult for yourself in the future to make that shift, because the momentum is already built. So by the time tomorrow comes, you have already, in other words, we've been speaking of, you put the coin into the piggy bank. Well, you've been putting coins into that piggy bank, and now there's a lot going on over there. Whereas you couldn't be doing it in that other direction. And then when tomorrow comes, it's nothing. If something comes up, it's just a blip that bounces off this momentum that you've already achieved. So focusing right here, right now, what's your state? How do you feel? How is this energy moving?
Feels great in this moment, like right here, right now.
So that's the work.
Yeah.
And you just enjoy it, and you enjoy it, and you enjoy it. And whether it's something that's just a thought in your mind, or something you see on television, or something you see out in the world, just make your focus continually that maintaining, enjoying that feeling that you have now. And then those other things will stick out like a sore thumb before they get uncontrollable, before they seemingly get unmanageable, before they grow in your experience, and now you're putting out fires everywhere.
You
know, one of the things about what you're saying, Anson, that I relate to is I like to, when I've had these wonderful peak experiences, I like to want to control them so that they happen again, you know, just want to control things so that they happen again. And what I'm hearing from, you know, Joseph is that it really is a moment by moment connection with the energy, with this feeling good energy, and that those kinds of, you know, the desire that you have, the intention that you have, then flows from that. You know, it's like not separate from that beautiful energy that you feel in this moment. So for me, and one of the things I was going to even talk about with Joseph was, I have to go have this little bit of hand surgery on Monday because they found this little cell or something that said, you know, pre-cancer. So they want to just cut it out, right, on my hand. And, you know, anybody who says like, the word cancer, you're like, what? And I was like, no, I'm just going to have this little surgery that is going to help clear everything up. We're going to be all good. I feel great. It's not, you know, it's almost like, in a way, I had to, you know, kind of really focus on all the good in this moment and in the situation, to let go of that sort of, I'm going to label it negative talk, negative, you know, going down that negative path.
But negative talk with who?
Myself. What do you mean? Yeah.
Not with others. You're not having this conversation with anyone.
No, nope. I haven't told a person.
Then it's nice and easy to let go of.
Yes. Yes. Of the thoughts, of the, yeah, it's easy to let go of the thoughts. It's, in fact, it's almost like I know so strongly that this is just a little blip, as you said earlier, and it's not going to it doesn't have this big influence and effect on me. I'm just going to take care of it, and we're going to move on, and it's going to be all good. And it's great that there are people who will help me. And, I'm really happy that, it'll be cleared up and I won't have to think about it again. And, yeah, it's okay. It's cool.
Well, I'm seconding that. It's going to be okay. It's going to be great. I'm putting that out there. It's done.
All right.
It
Thank
is.
you.
But
Yeah.
we want you to know as well, you're coming at this conversation a little bit from a little moving back and forth with it. In other
I always
words,
move back and forth with things like that, Joseph. It seems to me that that's the thing that I do. But I feel like I get to a good place, because there's a sense that all is well, really, all is well.
well,
I
you're
mean,
talking yourself into it a little bit, yes?
do you think I'm talking myself into it?
Very slightly. There is a little bit of a wanting to talk yourself into it, just a little bit. Not saying that you're fully in any negative direction at all, but, and it's very much splitting hairs here.
Yeah.
But within that conversation, there was a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you're bringing up the word cancer, but it's not cancer, but sometimes people think about this, and there's a little bit of that back and forth. So it's quick, it's subtle, but we also want to call your attention fully to it, just to continue to bring your awareness into these subtle, refined decision points that you get to make within all of it. And of
So,
course, it's going to be fine. Yes.
of course, yeah. But what would you say, like, because there is that sort of boundary, I'm going to call it, that the conditions of the world kind of come up because we're in the environment of the world. So we can't just like shut our eyes and not hear those words, right? I mean, sometimes we can, but
Sometimes you can.
yeah, but sometimes, it's when you go to a doctor and they say, well, the reason we want you to come in is because it's pre-cancer, then you're walking into a place where that's what they're used to, in their environment dealing with. Now, I don't have to buy into it, and I'm not, in the big sense of, this is a huge issue. But how do you recognize and accept that this is the way of the world, so to speak, and I have a different belief? I have a different.
By not giving it that airtime. In other words, this conversation, you brought this conversation up because
Yes.
it was active within you.
Okay. But yes, because it was a process that I was working out. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And bringing it up this is, in other words, if there's any place to workshop it, this is a wonderful opportunity to do so. But we also want you to step back a little bit, and even in these little subtle things, not even feel the need to entertain that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. There is no need to even. Yeah. It's sort of, okay, so I hear what you're saying. It's sort of like the split decision in my choice of everything's great and this is going to be fine. I'm just doing this and moving on. In that awareness of that, my own inner shift, I don't really need to talk about it anymore. I don't really need to, yeah. Not that I'm repressing it, but I don't, because the decision has been made and I know it.
Now I
So
have a question. Sorry.
throw it out the
Now,
window. Well, yes.
as humans, it's so hard to turn off those noise. I mean, if your doctor's talking about it or whatever, it's kind of although as Marilyn was saying, it's it's gonna be fine, whatever. Then you go to the doctor. I mean, because I'm gonna relate to my situation in a few minutes, and then
Okay.
you're in that energy. You know what I'm saying, of of it could be cancer, it could not be this, and then that's all they're talking about. So you're in that energy, although you know you're fine and all that stuff like that, but you it's like you're sucked into that energy. Does that make sense?
It does make sense to me.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you know, man, but I'm in a wheelchair. I'm paralyzed. I was
Oh
in a
no.
car. I was in a car. I was in a car accident, 2004, and I lost my best friend in that car accident. So
Oh.
all of that, I was going through all of that energy, all that negative energy at the time. And I went to the doctor and hospital, and they said I'm paralyzed. I would never walk for the rest of my life. So I I remember accepting that energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And after the accident is when I became more spiritual, like becoming more aware and reading and try to get out of that mindset. So I did it after my car accident. So looking back from now to my accident, I was like, oh, I wish I did this or did that, or I wish I was this aware to not accept all these that negative environment from
And
doctors, family, friends, everybody.
but right here, right now, the opportunities are available to you. So we want to stop you for a moment because this is the conversation that we're still having. Yes. You wish things could have been different, and we want you to know they will and are becoming different right here, right now, because the opportunities have never, ever, and will never go away. They're just on the tip of your
Mm,
tongue. They're just right there, no matter what form they take, no matter what path they follow in order to meet you, and whatever path you follow to meet them. The opportunities are always available to you. So we don't want to let you go any further down any sort of thought of, and it's not regret. We don't feel that from you at all. But
no.
the initial threads that if you were to follow that may start to remind you of something that feels like that. And we say you don't even have to go 1 foot down that path, because that's not where the solutions are. That's not where the new ideas are. That's not where the fun experiences are. That's not where the fruits of all of this spiritual focus that you've been doing, that's not where they are either. It's right coming up to you. Next step, next day, next
Yeah.
breath.
Yeah. It's not happening anymore. It's gone. You know what I'm saying? So like you said earlier, it's this moment. Even 5 minutes ago, it's gone. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the new ideas you had 5 minutes ago, all of the new ideas you had 5 years ago, all of the best of all of that, that still exists. It still exists energetically.
Mhm.
It's still there calling you forward. It's still there. It's still here. Yes. That's that connection that you're feeling when you're here in this energy, part of this collective consciousness, feeling that goodness, feeling that inspiration. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when we spoke of Marilyn having the conversation here, and then everyone's receiving the best of that and everyone's inspired, that's happening within you at all times. You've been doing that the whole time. And so there is a new idea, there is a next step, and it's right there. It's not just right there, but it's right here. And that's where we want your focus to be. What's happening right here, right now, with
Mm-hmm.
all of you, with
Mhm.
everything, with the big things, with the
Yeah.
small things, when things are moving fast, when things are moving slowly,
Mm-hmm.
when someone's telling you that they love you, when someone's telling you that they never want to see you again.
Mm-hmm.
We want all of those things to be secondary to this primary connection with the inner energy. And it puts everything else into perspective. It puts everything else into alignment, and it allows the solutions to flow in so very quickly for you.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
almost like the resistance that comes up around stuff that, that we think we need to do in the world is telling us that we're going down the wrong path, so to speak. It's almost like when they say, oh, you got to come in and have this removed because we don't want you to get cancer. It's almost like my resistance to that, like I wanted to say to that person, I wanted to say, well, you can't tell me to get cancer or not, but I didn't, because that would have been weird. But but I did feel a little bit like, you know angry and resistant about it. And I think
And that's why we're having the conversation.
yeah, and so yeah, thanks, Joseph. So now you're really digging this stuff up for me. But at the same time, what that showed me is that the, incredible power that I have in this moment to actually create it as a nothing, and to create it as just this opportunity to move on.
So when you're asking about going into the world, that's what we're saying. That's the benefit that you can get from all of it. To not need to give it the airtime, but also to not need to push it away or to hide yourself from it. Because any of these influences, as soon as you hear the opinions of a doctor or someone who, not that all doctors are in that perspective, but of someone in that position, trying to warn you, trying to instill just a little bit of fear for your own good, they think.
Yeah.
And many times it is not malicious in intent, but it is, they think, for your own good. In other words, don't jump in front of that moving car. But as soon as the influence touches you, you can then receive the benefit of it.
Right.
You don't have to go scanning every centimeter of your body, or you don't have to go looking around every corner or look under the bed and in the closet every time you walk home. But as soon as the idea comes to you, in other words, what is this about? Is this about cancer or no cancer? That's not what this is about. Is this conversation about wheelchair or no wheelchair? That's not what this conversation is about either. The conversation is about living a wonderful life that you enjoy. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's what we want you to know, is no matter what's going on with you, no matter where you are, no matter what has happened to you, there is a path that's being extended to you for a life that you're really gonna enjoy. All you have to do is what you're both doing right here, right now, which is having an awareness of the energy. And then when the new idea comes, saying yes.
Yeah. That's really perfect and beautiful, because that is where the joy is found. Like, even as you were saying that, and I heard myself saying yes to, the belief that all is well, or, life is amazing. It felt so good, it just felt so good to say yes.
And we're refining. We're getting more refined.
Yeah.
We're getting more intricate with these conversations. These aren't the big things that sometimes they seem like they are, but it's just getting more refined, more refined. And we say, why have this conversation? Why have this conversation at all, unless there is something underneath that is worrying you? And we say that about many conversations that you're wanting to have in this forum, in this way. And we're happy to have those conversations very much. But we also want you to recognize the basis from where they come from. And it's not always one of enjoyment and satisfaction. And so that's the work, is being able to find that place. And that's what we want to talk about, not the specific issues, not the ideas or even the beliefs or even the thoughts, but what's it going to take right here, right now to feel that connection?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had a conversation the other day with someone about being of service and just this desire to uplift others. And then me sort of wanting to have what that looked like all figured out. And recognizing that that was resistance coming up within me. And when I went into that, understanding what that resistance was, and it was this feeling of, oh, well, I'm not good enough. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I do the wrong thing? What if I, mess somebody up low, all those excuses. And when I saw it and I let it go, I was like, I don't know what's coming next, but this is not what I want. I want this feeling of, enjoyment and love. And then the next day I was on a call with somebody and she was like, I'm trying to put together a course for people. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be, but online. And we were talking about transpersonal psychology, which is where my degree is. And we both got like really jazzed about doing something together. Like she's across the world in Norway and I'm here in Colorado. But so now we're going to meet and we don't have all the answers. We don't know what it's going to be about. But it was almost like when I let go of that idea of, I can't do it. I don't know if I'll be successful, blah, blah, blah. This other beautiful door opened because I decided it was more important to be in a place of peace and to be okay with the not knowing.
And the next steps will always occur to you.
And the next steps occurred and they'll continue to occur. Yeah.
The next idea will flow right in. The next action to take comes right there. It shows right up for you.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, in other words, knowing that you want to build a house, you don't have to pull the hammer and the nail out and go to it right then and there. You have the idea, and then you start to look at other homes, and then you start to contemplate style, and then you contemplate function and so forth, and then it refines a little bit more, and that's what we're doing here. And then you have a rough sketch and you start to fill it in, and you design rooms, and then swap one for the next into the flow, and you put yourself in the shoes of the one who is there, and you put yourself there in the bed looking around, and you put yourself in the fresh air, and then you realize maybe this is a little different, and then you fill in the blueprint, and then the blueprint is clear, and then you start taking the physical actions, and then you start designing that and moving into that. It's a process, and that we really want you to enjoy that architectural creative process within everything that you're doing, knowing that the next step is always going to be there right when you need it, right when you're ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a home.
But that important little first step of, as we've been talking about, kind of releasing the resistance to, well, first, kind of being aware of that, there is resistance, and then kind of, releasing that and not giving it the juice, just moving on, I think is a really important, for me, it's become a really important tool.
That's the decision point, because that's always going to happen. When you have the new idea, it's new because it's coming from this old experience, and the old experience is no longer appropriate for you to take forward. And that's when you feel that sort of tug of war, that sort of back and forth. And it's always going to be there. So we're glad that you enjoyed the process, because it's an eternal one. There's always going to be something else that comes. And then the more you appreciate and allow the process to continue, the more enjoyable it is. So the distinctions become as subtle as, do I want the bedroom to be facing westward or eastward? Not, how am I going to find my next meal?
Yeah.
But the process is the same nonetheless. It's a decision. It's a being aware of the possibilities of the state of being and then choosing the one that's going to allow you to receive the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important. What you just said, choosing the one that's going to allow you to receive the next step. That's it.
It is for now. And then there's another one, and there's another one, and there's another choice, and there's another new idea, and there's another refinement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we really want to emphasize how much we want you to truly not accept, not begrudgingly tolerate, but to enjoy that process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. I get that. I totally get that now. Because that leads to just more enjoyment, as we were talking, in the beginning. So that combustion point.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's what we have here in this conversation. Yes. This inner energy,
Yeah.
it's expressing. You're each all having your reactions, and then the new idea comes and it flows right in, and it flows right in. And then someone else is saying the next thing that was on that, and then the next thing and the next thing. And that's all that this process is too.
Yeah.
So you carry it forward by having the intention, by continuing to refine and reestablish that intention to create those habits. And the habit then is the recognition of your state.
Yeah.
Does this thought flow? Does it have the good stuff? Is it
Mhm.
giving me what I want? Is it giving me the juice? Is it giving me the energy? Is it adding to my mojo? Is it making me feel
Yes.
enlivened?
Awesome. I want to say something to Marilyn. It's funny when I don't know if you had mentioned before where you're from, but when we first started, and I was like, oh, is it because it's light outside or dark, or I'm looking through it a bit, and as the conversation go on, you mentioned in the conversation where you're from, like Colorado. I'm like, wow, and I was thinking that earlier, like where is
You
she from?
were?
And
Every time.
yeah, I was like, where is she? I'm wondering where you're from, like what state? And I didn't have I didn't ask you anything because we're having a conversation, but you end up telling the story of where you're from, so you answered my question. So we can see how the energy is flowing, even
Yeah.
even with my question I had in my head. This was also answered. I just want to add
That's
that in there.
awesome.
Yes,
Collective consciousness, yes.
yes,
Collective
it's fun.
consciousness. I have a new
Like,
appreciation for collective consciousness
yes,
now.
yes, I love that word.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And as you maintain your connection with your internal, eternal inner energy, you will always draw to you those who resonate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's
Yes.
those who see you in that state of connection and want to know how you do it, or those who are in that process right along with you and you're just syncing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say that's the state of bliss?
Yes,
Yeah.
we would
Yeah.
say it,
Hmm.
but it wouldn't matter what we say, of course.
But I think, in religion, especially, we think about bliss as this unattainable state, but really we can experience that bliss in our daily lives by that connection with source energy. And I just love the fact that I can say, and my choice for source energy leads to the next step, leads to the next step, leads to the next step.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is.
Blissful. The bliss of life. Yeah.
And I was thinking a few minutes ago, what we all here in this moment, like why, like not why, but I know why, but like when you were younger or last year or whatever, we never thought of in this moment. Why are we here in this moment having this conversation? Something that we're all on the same wavelength talking about,
Yes. It's your next step.
which is yes.
You have the intention and the next step shows up for you.
Yeah.
That's all that this is a representation of.
Hmm. With the collective consciousness.
Indeed.
Yes.
And the collective is all
Yes.
about you. It's in the birds that are singing to you. It's in the people that are waving to you. It is in your own inner mind and the non-physical energies that gather around you to support you.
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
Eternally so. Yes. We've enjoyed this conversation very much, and that is the point. Yes.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
good. Yeah, I have too. I've really enjoyed
Very
this
good.
conversation. Thank you.
Very much.
Very good.
Very much. We feel that this is a good time. Yes.
Hmm. Yep.
We
Thank
are
you.
complete. Yes, very much. We are complete. Hi.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey.
Thank
Hello.
you.
Yay.
Thank you. That was so great.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. That was that felt good. I can't wait to go back and listen. I felt like that was a nuanced, a good kind of like, oh, subtle approach. So I'll have to go back and apply it.
Yeah.
very very blissful conversation.
Yeah, I felt that too. I had one moment where I was just like,
Yeah. Yes.
Where did
nice.
you go, Aaron?
felt
Where do you go? And
I'm just listening,
You're
I'm
listening.
just sitting
Yeah.
back and I'm listening and relaxing, and
Yeah.
that's it, hanging out.
For you. Well, thank you so much for bringing them forward. And that was just a great conversation. And Anson, thank you so much for sharing and
Yeah.
just got so much out of today. So thank you. Yay.
You're
Yay.
welcome.
Thank you both. I know this is about the collective consciousness, so I'm glad that you're part of it,
Yes.
part of the process.
Yeah, I'm going to
Yes,
go
we
on
are.
my merry way with the collective consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, awesome. See y'all next week.
Bye.
Thank you. Yes.
Bye.
Y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.